I am Matilda Rand here with Denise Ward and Gale Farthing. I'm your host for today, and we're talking about the Our Community Reads program of the Friends of the Aptos Library. Denise Ward joined the Friends of the Aptos Library in 2017 and became the head of the steering committee to get our Community Reads program off the ground. It's now in its 6th year and has expanded to include 5 chapters of Library Friends. Gale Farthing is the president of the Friends of the Aptos Library and a retired librarian for the Santa Cruz Public Library system. She has been involved with Our Community Reads planning since the 2nd year and as a participant since the beginning. Welcome, Denise and Gale.
Thank you.
Much.
Gale, could you start, because not everyone may know about the Friends of the Library, could you start to tell a little bit about what the Friends of the Aptos Library entails and how it is connected to the Santa Cruz Public Library system?
The Friends of the Aptos Library is one of the chapters of the Friends of the Library. And the overall Friends of all of the branches, the 10 branches in Santa Cruz, support the library with fundraising and volunteers and advocacy. The Friends of the Aptos Library do that on a smaller scale for just the Aptos branch, but it's all interconnected, so we're all supporting each other, really, and supporting the library.
And you're part of the Aptos Library Friends also.
Yes, I am. I joined in 2017, sort of accidentally, to be honest. It was pretty funny. I had been really inspired for this type of a program. It's not an original idea. Community Reads programs had kind of proliferated all around the country. And one in particular in Lake Oswego, Oregon, which is just outside of Portland, had a very successful one. It's been going on now for, I think, 15 or 16 years. And my dear friend was always telling me about this program and how much she loved it. And every year I'd hear her talk about the events and talk about the book. And finally, one day I just thought, gee, that sounds like something that would really work in our community. And so she put me in touch with the director of the Lake Oswego Friends, and her name was Cindy Glazer. She gave me access to so much information. So I took it to a friends meeting and was sort of thinking I would pitch this idea, and then I'd say, well, sure, I'm happy to help in any way I can. And by the end of the meeting, well, they said, okay, how would you like to head the steering committee? And I wasn't really quite prepared. I'd never done anything at all like it, but I couldn't say no, I guess. I thought, well, we'll just see how it goes. And that was, 6 years ago, more.
And what does it do? How is it structured?
Well, the whole goal is really to promote literacy. I mean, first and foremost, I guess, but with the idea of bringing the community together. And we do it through choosing one book, and then from that book, we extrapolate different themes. I think it'd be fun for Gale to actually talk about how we select the book, because people always want to know that.
All of us are readers, and we read a lot. So as we're reading, sometimes we'll say, oh, this book seems like this would be a good thing for our community read. And then we start meeting pretty soon after we finish the programs. Mm-hmm. So maybe in May is the first meeting. And we'll usually say, well, here's some books that we think might work. And then other people on the committee will read those too. And then we talk about it, and then we come back and say, oh, and here's another one. And then eventually we whittle it down to 4 or 5 books, and we have a voting party in September where the community is invited, and we present little snippets of the books and say, okay, you get to vote on which one you'd like to do. And this year's selection, Mary Coyne, was the overwhelming choice for this year, which I think sort of surprised some of us. It was the only fiction book, and the other 3 were nonfiction. And it's interesting, actually. The first 3 years we had nonfiction books, and the last 3 years we've had fiction books.
And I have to say the community has never steered us wrong. I don't know if I've ever even gotten my first choice as the selected book. But in the end, it's like the community really knows, because our events, they've just gotten better and better, and they're really fun to put together.
This wasn't my first choice. One of the other options was caught inside about surfing in Santa Cruz. And I thought, well, that's perfect. Another one was Lost Feast about food. And again, I thought, well, look at all the food around here. That would be perfect. I was sort of surprised. But as it turns out, it's been a real goldmine for programs.
Well, the funny thing is we thought because we've been through so much with the pandemic that people would want something really uplifting. And instead they chose a book that takes place during the Depression. So our pulse on it was a little bit wrong. But we've managed to pull together events that are going to be very enjoyable. We've got music for the first time. We have 2 musical events. It'll be the second year we've done third actually, that we've done a hands-on art event. We have a writing workshop. So there's a lot of creativity that goes into these events. But then on the other side of it, we also try to do things that are educational. So we're going to have a panel on February 16th called Farm to Table, and it's going to talk about labor, workers' rights, sort of a history of a very interesting episode in our local history. It was a canning strike in Watsonville in the late 1980s. I think that's going to be fascinating. And then we show films, too. So we're going to be showing Grapes of Wrath, and we're going to be showing a documentary on Dolores Huerta. And that's co-sponsored by the UCSC Dolores Huerta Research Center. And so we had this synergy, which was quite interesting, that they all of a sudden changed the name and to rename it after Dolores Huerta. At the same time, we were looking into showing the documentary. We're going to be working together.
Yeah, there is a lot of synergy and just serendipity that happens as we're
You're
planning
bringing the community together.
the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you say, our community reads, but at the same time, as you mentioned, you're bringing the community together around this book. Now, this book is written by Marissa Silver.
Yes.
She based her book on a photo. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, on the Migrant Mother by Dorothea Lange. So it's pretty she sticks pretty close to the facts. It's a fiction book, obviously, but she sticks pretty close to the real story. Although it's very interesting, Florence Owens Thompson, who is the migrant mother, actually spent her last few years in Scotts Valley.
Oh.
She's buried in Scotts Valley, actually. And we didn't know that
We're talking
when we...
serendipity and synergy.
Right.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
So obviously photography, to me, that's the interesting part of this book, how this photograph is true. I mean, obviously it's a photograph, so it's real for what happened in that instance, but also how it's not true in that the part that's left out and that you don't see. And I think that's really sort of what the author is getting at in the book, is that here's the backstory for both of these women, both the photographer and the subject of the photograph, and it's not exactly what you think you're seeing. To me, that's the interesting part.
Yes.
And we do have also a panel discussion with 3 local photographers, sort of about that, about photography and what is true and what is real. And so I'm looking forward to that one, too.
And of course, these days, with all the technology, we sometimes cannot know if a photograph actually is true.
Right.
Actually, I saw a program on TV where the companies are adding an icon or something like that to a photo where you can see the origin of the photo and if it has been manipulated or not. And I think that is an incredible, I think it was 60 minutes, but I'm not sure. It's an incredible development because how many times are we fooled by a photograph? So it's kind of interesting. That book, I mean, there's so much that you're doing with this book that brings a lot of modern developments in photography and, of course, migrants. And so thank you so much for doing this. And so you said 6 years already?
Yeah, we're in our 6th year. And what's been so fun is that it's like a whole new world each year because the themes, the books are, of course, entirely different. The themes are entirely different. So our first year, we did a book by Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. And that was amazing because we found out that there's quite a large South African contingency living right here in our community. And we had a speaker who grew up, I think, 10 minutes away from Trevor Noah. Again, things just happen like that. People come out of the woodwork, and it's just so enriching, surprising, exciting. It's really kind of magical.
And mysterious.
And mysterious. Yeah, that's right.
A mystery in the book and mystery in putting it together.
There was one year, it was really fun. We did The Death and Life of Monterey Bay. And we actually, La Selva Beach Friends hosted a panel of scientists. And it was so well attended. We had 100 people there. And afterwards, one of the scientists came up and gave me a big hug, and he said, "Thank you so much for this platform. We've been dying to tell what we do to an audience, and we feel like we really are doing a service." I had to break it to him that, gosh, I'm really sorry, but next year we're going to have a whole different book and a whole set of different themes, so we're not asking you back. But anyway, it's just nice to give people also an opportunity to share and tell their stories.
Yeah, and that year we actually had people calling us and saying, "We'd like to present. We heard that you're doing this, and we would like to do a program." So that was pretty exciting.
It was very
and
exciting.
Actually, this year we had one person. We're just figuring out how to add one more program at the last minute because somebody got in touch with us and said, "I do this, and it's really relevant to your program." And
Yeah.
it really is very community-driven, and that part is exciting.
And community building, yeah. I'd like to remind the people that are listening that this is Exploring Santa Cruz on KSQD. My name is Matilda Rand, and my guests are Gale Farthing and Denise Ward of the Friends of the Aptos Library. The topic of discussion is the program Our Community Reads, with many activities and events. So that brings me to the question, what about the author? Did you invite the author? Is she coming?
She's coming virtually. So we did invite her. She preferred to do it virtually. One of our very first hybrid events. So we're having a gathering that's being hosted by the Friends of the Capitola Library, and it will be at the Capitola Library. And then people who want to watch from home can. Marissa Silver, the author, is going to be projected on a screen from her own home in Los Angeles. But that way we're kind of together, but we're not. And the event is going to be moderated as well. So we'll have questions from the audience, both the live audience and the virtual audience.
And of course, a lot of us are used to virtual meetings and activities and events. So thank you. So when is she showing up?
Wednesday night.
This coming Wednesday.
Wednesday, February
February 1st.
That brings me to a question about, okay, so the community reads. When do people read the book? Do they read it on their own, or is there guided reading? Is there group reading?
I would say mostly read it on their own. A lot of the library book groups are reading it as their selection for either January or February. And other book groups, not just the library book groups. Lots of people have come up to us when we're at the farmers market saying, "Oh, I persuaded my book group to read this," or "My book group is reading this." So in that way, a lot of book groups are reading it and discussing it. Otherwise, the library obviously has copies, and you can request that. It's been a little tricky to get hold of the book this year, the supply chain issues that we're going through with everything else. But people can still find used copies. If you go to Alibris or Powell's Books in Portland or other, you can get used copies, although new ones are a little tricky to come by.
And does the library have a book kit?
They do,
Yeah,
yes. So
okay.
book groups can...
So if people get excited because of the activities and the events, they can get it in a book kit and read it with their own group.
Absolutely.
Later on.
That's
So-
right. And then what we really encourage, we have a trivia night, the very last event, March 2nd. And it's at the Steel Bonnet. It's a brew pub in Scotts Valley. And we encourage people to come with their book club and compete as a group.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, the trivia has always been a really popular event. One of the librarians, Victor Willis, hosts the trivia at Steel Bonnet for the library every other Thursday. And so he's agreed to do the trivia questions for us. So,
Oh, that's fantastic.
so yeah, we're very excited.
You talked about a couple libraries. Now, you're doing this together with 4 other friends of the libraries. Who are they?
Right. So we started it in Aptos, and then I think the next group that joined was La
La
Selva,
Selva.
and then Capitola. And The Felton Friends and the Scotts Valley Friends decided to join us this year. So now we're 5 strong, which is just awesome. And their events have sold out, I think, Scotts Valley's and Felton's. I believe that those communities were just starving for this type of thing. The Scotts Valley Friends are hosting the photo panel, and the Felton Friends are doing a really cool documentary on Dorothea Lange and some music. So I think the communities are very appreciative of the efforts that they're making.
So we can have groupies going from library to library to go to all the events.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they're all over the county, and which is exciting, and which is another reason that the hybrid events are good, because if you're trying to get from North County to Aptos for an evening event, the traffic is bad, so you can just stay home in your pajamas and zoom in.
I know. So honestly, if there's one silver lining, and maybe the only one of the pandemic, is that the libraries have invested in top quality equipment to be able to do these hybrid events. And we all know what our traffic is like around here. So just like what Gale said, it's really great that it gives people the option. Not all of our events are hybrid. Some are in person only, but quite a few of them.
And those that are hybrid, Zoom, there is no limit, right? You said it's
Right.
sold out, but
Right, the in-person ones are full. And we shouldn't say sold out because they're all free.
Yeah, that's right.
see, that's the whole thing. People are sold to it to attend, but they're not paying any money. I know, it's amazing. The library never charges
And free
for
refreshments at many of
Right,
them.
that's true. If you come in person, for several of them, there will be refreshments.
Zoom for people that are also homebound. They can read the book, and I assume it's also on e-readers and things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And audio, I think.
And what about incentives for readers? I know the library has this wonderful summer thing, and I always read as many books as I can. And even though I'm an avid reader anyway, but actually during the summer I read even more. I have incentives, and actually
That's
I
right.
got one, which is it's really surprising. But will you have other kinds of incentives for
We
people?
do. This year, we're introducing our passport. And we actually have a printed passport, and we'll be handing them out Wednesday at the author talk. And every time you go to an event, you get your passport stamped. And if you're attending virtually, we give you a secret code that you write in the space. And if you attend all the events, you're going to get a prize. And then we have a couple of runners-up slots as well. So we're really excited to launch that. Just like you said, I think it might incentivize some people. It's hard to go to 11 events in a month.
Right.
Yes,
Essentially.
because we do it, so we know.
That's right. We just really encourage it because it's so mind expanding. You're just really getting so deep into these themes from on all different levels. And by the time you finish it, you just feel like you've really done something fabulous. So we just want people
And
to have that
you
experience.
find out things about the community that you didn't know. It's like listening to you on your program. But as we found out, as we start setting up the programs, then we go, oh, we didn't know about this group, or we didn't know that. And
You meet a lot of
you meet a
people.
lot
So
of people.
many.
That's true.
Even me reading my summer reading, I do it on my own. But for some reason, when I'm somewhere and it comes up, the question comes up, do you do the summer reading? Yeah, you know, what have you been reading? What have you been reading? And you meet people in a very relaxed atmosphere. And especially when you go to openings of libraries. We have some new libraries opening up.
Aptos
Yes, we
will have
know.
a new one, hopefully by the end of this year.
Yeah.
I went to the one at Garfield. It was just terrific. But you start talking about what people are reading, and you meet other people in a very relaxed atmosphere. And it encourages me, at least, to read even more, or even see if I can read what they are reading.
That's
Because
so
we
wonderful.
stimulate.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of flying, and you'd be on a plane and you'd see lots of
Right,
books,
right.
right? Oh, look at, that person, or, you sit next to somebody and say, oh, are you enjoying that book? But now people are reading on so many different devices and things that you don't know what they're reading. So it's nice to have those exchanges.
Exactly. Again, listeners, you are listening to Exploring Santa Cruz with Gale Farthing and Denise Ward. We're talking about our Community Reads program, started by the Friends of the Aptos Library, but now activities in 4 other libraries, and probably next year even more so.
We hope so.
We hope so. Yeah.
You can contact Denise and Gale at Friends of the Aptos Library, all one word, at F, which stands for Friends, SCPL, which stands for Santa Cruz Public Library, .org. So again, Friends of the Aptos Library at fscpl.org. And of course, you can always go to the website, because now you are interested in where are the activities and how can I zoom in. You can go to friendsofaptoslibrary.org, friendsofaptoslibrary.org. Now we have a few minutes left. Let's start with Gale. Anything that we didn't mention that you think people should know?
If you want to register, you need to register. They're all free, but you do need to register. And if you want to do that, you can go to the library's website, which is scpl.org.
Mm-hmm.
Go down to the calendar and just find any of the events you're interested in, and you can register right there. So that's the first thing, is find the calendar, find the events. We do have the calendar available.
At all the branches, you can find a copy of the beautiful printed calendar that we have.
And of course, at the libraries themselves,
yes,
right.
All these wonderful people that work there, they can quickly turn you on where to go to register.
Exactly.
Yes, and they have passports as well there.
Oh, that is
Right.
fantastic.
Yes.
What about you?
Well, I would just like to say that we work very hard, that it's all run through volunteers. We provide these events free to everyone in the community. So if there are any people out there who are interested in supporting by donating, we really appreciate that, because we work hard at putting book sales together. And so it's really book sales and donations is how the Aptos Friends supports itself. Each chapter has their own fundraising.
A lot of them do book sales and other types of events like that. So, yeah.
And our events are hosted not just at libraries, because now that our events are so well attended, they don't have the capacity at the library. So we need to use a church hall or a Grange hall or something like that.
Again, you're bringing in the community
We are.
to do this. But you're a growing community.
We hope so.
We hope so.
That's what we're aiming for.
Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Listeners, this was Exploring Santa Cruz with Gale Farthing and Denise Ward of the Friends of the Aptos Library, discussing the program Our Community Reads, with this year's selection being the book Mary Coyne by Marissa Silver. You can reach both Gale and Denise by going to Friends of the Aptos Library, Friends of the Aptos Library at fscpl.org. And of course, you can get more information on friendsofaptoslibrary.org and the regular county-wide website SCPL, Santa Cruz Public Library.org. Thank you, Gale. Thank you, Denise. I think I better go to my computer and sign up for some of these activities.
I hope
excellent.
so.
Thank you, Matilda.
Because
Thank you
even
so
on Zoom,
much.
you want to register because you need to get
Yeah,
the
you
link.
have to get the Zoom
Right,
link.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. This
thank
is
you.
so exciting.
Thank you.
Okay.